Kirk Cousins is done for the year. What do you think is happening there right now?
Well, I think it's not only kind of going over what your options are in terms of the players that could be out there on the street. I mean, you're talking about like the Colt McCoys, of the world, or the trade options, but then it's also saying, what's the landscape of where we are in the NFC as a whole? And are we right to try and, get rid of some assets in terms of draft capital to try and salvage this one? Or are we better to just say, hey, let's just get through this year and we look towards the future? Like, you got to kind of know where you feel you are. The sad thing, the suck of it is the NFC, the Eagles are there, but outside of that, the Niners have kind of come back to earth a little bit. The Vikings, and if they got Justin Jefferson back, I mean, they had a real shot of making a run here, man. So there's a lot they've got to kind of go through. I lobbed out the Trey Lance thing, which people on social media immediately freaked out over.
Well, don't mess with the Trey Lance, folks, man. I don't know what it is with him, and he's an outstanding young man with a huge upside from Minnesota. And also from the Shanahan system, which Kevin O'Connell is, not too far away from. It does make sense because you can't imagine it's much more expensive. I mean, Dallas gave up a fifth for him. You could tell Dallas, let's improve that by a couple rounds. Now you're not sitting on that pick on Saturday. You can actually use it on Friday night in Detroit next year. I mean, that makes sense to me, Daniel. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, back in the day when everybody was just flipping houses. They're just flipping quarterbacks. You sit on them for a couple months and you flip them and you end up making a nice little profit there if you're the Dallas Cowboys. And the way Dak's playing and what they look like, he's not going anywhere. So that's a way to kind of, you've just unloaded an asset and upped your draft pick. So for the reasons you mentioned, I think if you're going to make a trade in season for a quarterback outside the building to come in and play for you, he has to at least have been in scheme adjacent. He has to have some familiarity with what you do. And that is a very close line between the McVay line and the Shanahan line, where Kevin O'Connell came from. So that's why I kind of lobbed out that scenario with Trey Lance. And personally, you mentioned what a good kid he is. I'd like to see him get a chance to play. We don't know on him. Nobody knows on Trey Lance. I think it'd be fun to watch him go back to his hometown and get a shot.
So what do you think, now that I've asked you, is going on there? What do you think they should do? I mean, and tell me about the kid from BYU, Puka Nakua's quarterback, who actually is in the building. Tell me about Jaren Hall and this one answer about what you think they should do.
Yeah,
DJ.
Good athlete. He's a good athlete, and some similarities there to Trey from that standpoint because he can run the ball. But just a little bit inconsistent with touch, just a little bit up and down. He's strong, he's sturdy, he can drive the football really, really well. He's a good athlete. The Senior Bowl for him, I was hoping he was going to kind of just explode on the scene there and really take off. It wasn't a great week for him there. But he's got there's some intrigue there with what he can do. And I know John Beck, former BYU quarterback who trained with Jaren, who's trained with Trey, trained with a zillion of these quarterbacks, but he is someone who spoke very highly of Jaren, and I'm a big fan of John. So I think you got something to work with there.
Well, so what do you think then they should do in Minnesota?
I would make the call on Trey Lance. That's me. I think that's the most intriguing upside, to kind of use one of your words there.
Yep.
And I think, why not? Let's take a look. Let's see what we've got. I think he's the one that could be potentially available that could hit the biggest, if that makes sense.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.